All right, so last time we went through chapter 4.2, which was on single qubit operations, and here's your brief summary. We saw more than this, but this is, the must know. You sort of must memorize these gates when we do quantum circuits. It's going to help you, and then like on quizzes and stuff, I'm going to expect you to know if I write down these, what they are and how you can analyze and work with them. So Hadamard, the Pauli matrices, and then we had sort of derivatives of the Pauli Z matrix. S is the square root of Z. T is the square root of S. So we're sort of going from -1 to the square root of that to the square root of that. Then we had the new thing was the rotation matrices. So if I want to rotate around the X, Y, or Z axis, I have these single qubit operations which do that. These are very convenient. Again, we usually work with the sort of Pauli operators, the Pauli bases, and the axes on the Bloch sphere. So these are good to know, but we could also do it for any axis on the Bloch sphere that we want to, and we showed how to define that last time, some linear combination of X, Y, Z. Yes, so I mentioned the Bloch sphere last time, and I showed a drawing of it, but I wanted to show at least one of the online sort of tools for this. There are many of them. This is called the, well, I guess Grok Bloch. If you Google Grok Bloch, you'll get to this. It's a nice visualization. So Bloch sphere, as we've seen before, 0 state at the North Pole, 1 state at the South Pole. And then I wrote down the X and Y axes. I guess I didn't mention it. The plus state is the positive X axis. It's the, X acting on the plus state is the +1 eigenvector. And then the minus state is the -1 of that. So that's the negative X axis. And the same thing would be true for Y. The positive Y axis corresponds to the +1 eigenvector of Pauli Y. And the negative axis corresponds to the -1 eigenvector. So we started thinking about these rotation operators. And let's, for example, look at the Z rotation operator. So if I'm starting in the 0 states and I rotate about the Z axis, which is, I guess, off the screen. Okay, so let's start with the X rotation, and that'll be even better. So if I do a rotation about the X axis, the right-hand rule applies here. So I single out the positive X axis. And if I'm going about a positive angle, that corresponds to the direction that you curl your fingers. So we have two options. We could do a pi/8 rotation or a pi/12 rotation here. And so if I do a pi/8 rotation, that you see that we're rotating from the 0 states about that angle, pi/8, about this X axis. And if you keep doing this, for example, 4 times, you end up on the equator of the Bloch sphere. And then I could keep doing this. If I did this 4 more times, that's 8 times, then I would do a full 180-degree rotation going from the 0 state to the 1 state. So we argued last time that the rotation gates for the angle pi correspond exactly to the Pauli operators. And so you could see that here, right? Going from the 0 state to the 1 state is exactly a Pauli knot gate. We were doing the angle pi/8, and we did that 8 times, and we got to the 1 state. And you can check that. So here, if I do a knot gate, takes me back to the 1 state, to the 0 state, sorry, and then back and forth between there. Same thing would be true for the y-axis. So now with the y-axis, positive y-axis is here. If you point your thumb in the direction of that, the direction your fingers curl will go in the positive angle there. So if I do a +y rotation of pi/8 4 times, for example, I could get to the plus states. And keep doing that, get to the y states. Remember that y acting on the 0 state will also give you the 1 state, but there's a negative I phase here. And so that's what this sort of projection in the bottom is showing you. This is the e to the I pi. That angle pi is down here. So we wrote down this format. We had it as cosine θ/2 plus sine θ/2, and then e to the I phi. So this is that angle phi that corresponds to there. We can get back to the 0 states And this is a good tool for just sort of moving around on the Bloch sphere. You should know how this works very well. So if this helps you to practice, that is useful. I'll mention some of the discrete gates. So Hadamard will take me from the 0 states to the plus state. That's the first one that we wrote down. We sort of know and love this one. Now the S and the T gates are particular rotations about the z-axis. I guess I'll have to use this because I can't, for whatever reason, scroll down to get to the z rotations. But this works just as well. We know that S and T are particular z rotations. S is for the angle, well, S being the square root of z. So that would be halfway between. And then T being the square root of that. So that would be a quarter of the way between. So now if I do, for example, an S gate, I'm on the equator of the Bloch sphere, rotating around the z-axis a quarter of the way. So if I do this twice, that would be a z gate, right? We know that z acting on the plus state would give me the minus state. So that's 2 applications of S. And then for the T gate, that'll be even more finely spaced, so half of what S will do. So that's the pi over 4 that you're seeing here. If I did that 4 times, that would be equivalent to the z gate, taking me from plus to minus. So let's suppose that I didn't have access to any of these Rx, Ry, or Rz of theta gates. In other words, I have a discrete gate set. I'm not allowing myself any angle theta, but I'm only allowing myself, for example, these discrete rotations, Hadamard, S, and T, and then I could include the Pauli gates as well. Do you think that we would be able to get anywhere on the Bloch sphere with these discrete gates? Would this form a universal gate set, or do we need those rotations for any angle theta? Any thoughts one way or the other? You might think it's discrete, so we wouldn't be able to generate all the states. It's actually going to turn out to be a universal gate set. So Hadamard and the T gates will be a universal discrete gate set for any single qubit operation, and will eventually, I think in 2 sections, get to the statement and the proof of that. So it's a very powerful thing because, again, experimentally, it might be a pain to implement these rotations for any angle theta. And in other applications of quantum computing, like in error correction, it's convenient to think about having a fixed, discrete gate set. And so it's a very powerful result and very fundamental, important results that we're able to do any single qubit operations with a discrete gate set. And then we'll build that up to any arbitrary n qubit operations as well.